2.
Welcome to the Clarinet Ninja podcast. My name is Jay Hassler, and I'm here today to share the second half of the conversation I had with Ricardo Morales. In this conversation, we talk a lot about a gentleman named Jim Ogdemini. Jim was the bass clarinet player at the Metropolitan Opera when Ricardo got his job there. Jim was one of the finest bass clarinet players there ever was, and undoubtedly one of the warmest, kindest, most genuine individuals who was always there to make you laugh, help you with anything that you needed, and just generally speaking, be the kind of person you want to have around as a human and as a clarinetist. We also talk about the value of art, the transformational nature of art. We talk about the two sides of the coin, teaching and learning, and why that is a valuable thing on both ends, and how it really enriches everybody's life if you do it with the right spirit and with the right intention. We also talk, as one might want, about some clarinet equipment, and Ricardo's got some things going on that I think it would be good for everyone to know about in terms of mouthpieces and reeds and ligatures and the equipment that he is currently using. And the last thing I do want to highlight is we remark on a video made by Ron Odrich, who actually has the clarinet that Robert Marcellus played the Mozart Concerto on. It's a tremendous video. I'm going to link it in the description. Ron is a wonderful man, a great player, and knows just about as much about the clarinet as anyone I've ever met in my life. The video is terrific, and I'm going to post it in the description because if you like the clarinet, you should see this video. Please enjoy the second half of the conversation I had with Mr. Ricardo Morales. I was listening to a podcast about Miles Davis, and it made me think of you because you know what he loved? He loved the boxing.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because the overarching idea was about channeling of energy and frustration and anger. But it just reminded me of that time when you were in the woods and I was at your house watching the Tyson Holyfield fight. And even though you couldn't see the fight, you explained exactly why Tyson bit his ear off.
Yes. It was bad, but I understood why it happened. No, I do have a great love for boxing, for watching, etc. But I find that boxing, like in music, is very similar. I like to say this all the time because they're both music and boxing. There's a very fine line between kicking ass and getting your ass kicked. Yeah, very much. In boxing, you're winning, and then for a moment you lose the respect for your opponent. And I have always found that is when you're in imminent danger of getting knocked out. The minute you disrespect your opponent or where you think that you're so good. And the same thing with music. And it's very, the minute you're like, this is pretty good, and mistake happens. Or, and that is what it is. And that's the good thing about that is interesting about music. It's like, when you're really pushing for the extremes, you want to do this beautiful phrase and have this special diminuendo, and you go for it, and it works, it's great. Or sometimes close but no cigar. But but the thing is that it is that part of the job where I'm grateful that we're in the arts and that we're not doing a triple bypass with them. Sorry, this artery, help me out to close this up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So that is
a lot less of risk for sure.
Yeah. So then, but for sure is something that is very important. Then other thing that people don't realize that is very, very important is that, and I try to encourage that to my students, more so these days, and to try to remind them, because when you see the greatest ones, Tyson in his prime, Muhammad Ali, and all those great guys, they are like us in the ring. It's like being on stage. You're basically by yourself. You have to execute, but they have a support team. That is a very important thing that we have to remember, that we really ought to embrace, because the boxers, they will have the trainer, the nutritionist, the cutman, the guy who deals with your problems. You have the guys that bring in the bucket with the water. So you have all kinds of people there. So you when you go to a fight, you have those 3 minutes of hell, but then you come back and you have 5 to 10 people back there, checking for you. So that is important. You have the guy that's trying to, oh, please, this guy's getting you, you're getting caught with this hook, keep your right hand up or whatever. So people are looking for you. And that's the thing that we have to embrace that. And from our teachers, our colleagues, our friends, that, we have a community for a concert. We have our teachers, we have our friends that we play for, our colleagues that we play and we learn from. We have our repairman that helps us and make sure that our instrument feels good so when you're nervous on stage, you can feel secure about what you have. So it does take a village for all of us to be able to do what we do.
Almost a sales pitch. In the classes that I have, I call the Clarinet Ninja Dojo. Super fun, and I've got, it's an adults class. There's no kids because I've kind of tailored things for adult learners. But that community aspect of what you're talking about is there because we are there all together online. Everybody has heard everybody play. Everybody has seen everybody develop. Everybody has learned from what the other person has learned from. And it's really one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Yeah. And, it means a lot when somebody that's heard you play every week for the past 5 months says, man, that sounds really great. They mean that because they've heard what came before that. And this is the product of something else. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's been very fun to play a small role. I've written a lot of curriculum. I've done a lot of stuff. I've made a lot of stuff that's really, really great. But what's the most fun for me is that it's not just one person that gets to have the experience. We're all there. And it's a powerful thing when there's more than one person involved.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds great because that is, it's very important to learn from everybody. There's no such thing as, I find that there's no such thing as a utterly terrible performance. You learn, things that you like from great performances and from performances that you may not prefer. See, I don't even call it a terrible performance. A content that you may not be your favorite. Then you can still learn because there's all kinds of preparation in that process. And even if you're in your mind or in your opinion, the process wasn't as successful, there's still many things that happen that you can learn from all the time.
I take a position that sometimes people don't get behind, which is that if I'm going to hear performance, I want to be moved. I want to be changed, whether that's because I loved it so much or because I hated it so much.
Yeah.
Those are number one. Number two, then every other feeling of that was okay is that I should have just stayed home and watched Law and Order. If I thought that's okay.
Yes.
If you got me to hate it, then I get to explore a little bit about myself.
Right.
Why did I hate that? That was something that's hateable? Or is there something in me that made me feel like I needed to hate that? I mean, is that because Ricardo said that wouldn't be good, that I've got to hold on? I mean, honestly, because this important teacher to me said, you don't play like that. But that doesn't mean that he can't play like that or she can't play like that. They can play however they want to.
Yeah.
And if they challenge me, I'm going to get something new. I'm going to come out transformed.
Yes.
And transformation is oftentimes painful.
Yes.
It's traumatic.
But it's necessary for growth. And that is really important. Yeah, for sure. I'm actually playing about something like that. We are playing a concert. We're playing Palmira Burana, and it was very interesting. Giancarlo Guerrero, is a Costa Rican conductor, excellent musician. He's all over the place. He was until recently music director in Nashville. Where they won like over 10 Grammys. He's amazing. But I remember something that he said. He wanted a particular style for the strings to play in this number in Carmina Burana. He wanted it very raw, to sound a little bit wild and crazy, and and the expression he used, which I loved, was like, "Okay, my friend, this is excellent, and I hear the forte and the accent, but let's try it. Let's play it in a way that will make your teachers mad." And it's completely crazy, and it worked really well, And the thing that it is liberating. It is liberating in that sense, because sometimes when we put a frame, I've learned that the frame that we put in the ways that we play and the things that we like has to remain flexible. It should be able to expand and expand either way, up, down, sideways, contract. And it is important because that's how we grow as musicians, how we think about music, and because it's flexible, and there are certain things that we never know about people that are very important to know. Because, for example, there was a teacher that shall remain nameless for now, where that I know that is which I talked with Jim Ognivet, who was, you know, we were playing at the Met, and we both attended Indiana University. This particular teacher, had at the time, when Jim had been going to school at Indiana, he had supposedly a list of the students that he thought that were going to make it or not. Yeah. And I don't know why anybody would make a list like that. That's sort of weird to begin with. And then even worse, that the teaching assistant, had access to it. Okay. And he was a very good friend of Jim. And he said, "Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I saw the list. And yeah, I'm so sorry to tell you, you're not in it." But the people were going that were studying with this person. And that, yeah, the teacher thought that he was never going to make it. Now, and so then this same teacher, I guess it's 20 years later, whatever, I was playing and I was studying with Anton Weinberg, one of the teachers at Indiana University. He was visiting professor for a number of years. I think it was about 7 years. And I just so happened to be there for the last two and a half that he was there. I loved studying with him. I love him. He's great. He's still alive. He's doing well. British. Okay. And just fantastic. And at the time, he was very young. Some of the faculty were a little bit of the older school, very conservative, mostly just orchestral style. And then my teacher was, he was British, played the different clarinet style, etc., grado, and etc. But he was young. He was in his prime, played great, very good looking with his posh accent. So, of course, he was, everybody hated him because he was really great. Easy to hate, the most talented, good looking, with the accent and the whole thing is like, so forget it. But yeah, easy to hate because he was so great. And then, I loved him. I started with him and I admired him. And so at that time, he didn't ever encourage me to change anything, but out of love and respect, I was, imitating him a little bit. So my sound was getting a little bit more British. My idols at the time, Swiss, I was Primer, Jurassic Pyre, Reginald Kell, all that whole thing that time. And this particular teacher was not fond of that at all. Okay. So I remember that uh, I had to play a jury, and so he made me play a bunch of stuff. Nielsen Concerto, Mozart, Weber. And I was like 16, dude. I didn't even have to do that one, but it was like uh, a little interesting dynamic, because I think it was like five amongst them. They among faculty. They were like, and I was just the point there. But the thing is that, so I played, and then he was teacher had warned me, "You're gonna be tested, so please practice, do this, do that." Okay, fine. And that day, I was sort of fearless. I had a very good day. So it's like I could feel that I was into the test. So I was like, and so then the teacher was like, quiet, and then, "Fine, but with that fine, you'll never get a job in the United States." And that's what he said. And then that was the end of it. Okay. Now, I was 16 years old. Okay. And then so I start thinking, this is one of the things that I find that is very important as a teacher, that I've really have tried very hard to keep in mind, uh, that it is so, Jim Ogilvy and I, when we used to joke around, "Hey man, we're the rejects." So we used to joke that we were both on the Met, we were the rejects. But the thing was that it is very important, the words that one uses to teach. And the reason why is that what he was saying at that time, okay, may have been, you know what? It was true in a sense. in a sense, because, that style is not the standard style that we expect for, orchestral audition, especially, more, more streamlined, very much Bonat school, America, French American school, blah, blah, blah. And that was not, uh, and that was definitely not what I was doing. Okay. But, you know, uh, this happened. Obviously, this is like, I mean, such a long time ago. And then it's like, that's what the only thing I can remember from that day. Yeah. And the thing is that, yes, perhaps he was correct about Jim Morrison that he wasn't going to make it. Maybe in his mind, he was having a list of, okay, well, yeah, the next person to replace Larry Combs or when Sonny Drucker retires. Okay, and perhaps that's it. But Jim had not picked up a bass line when he was there, because what happens is that he went to the Marines, and then after the Marine, and then he was in the Charlotte Symphony. Is, so we're talking probably about 6 to 10 years after he graduated from there, that he heard a broadcast and he heard Jimmy Abato playing, and he was like, "Oh my God, this is so awesome!" And so he felt inspired. He got a bass clarinet, and then a couple of years later, then that opportunity happened. And Jim had one of the most compelling sounds, a beautiful musician, and I was so lucky to be able to. I'm so honored to play with him. I learned a lot, and he was just really fantastic. But the thing is that then, as a teacher, what I find is that it's important to allow for the seeds to grow. Okay, so I and I now say much more. When when I give you some instructions or whatever, number one word that always has to be in the tip of your tongue at all times is why. I will not be annoyed to explain why ever. Okay, because there are reasons for everything, and then there will be points where there will be, well, that is just subjective. That's what I like or whatever, and therefore when you get to that point, then that basically it gives you carte blanche. It's an open road where you can go either way. And but that it is important because everybody has a different time for blooming, and and we all do things differently. We have different goals and different accomplishments at different times, and it is important that as a teacher to be able to find a way to uh, uh, guide, but to be, excuse me, I want to be more of a trampoline for the student, because one is a student, technically speaking, you spend time with somebody, being your student, 2 years, four if they spend, and then hopefully, if you're lucky, they continue the development, and then you become friends, and they're your colleagues. They have their own ideas, and the most beautiful thing is to be able to, being able to, help somebody to develop their own ideas, and then you can learn from them also. So it's like a very nice opportunity. So yeah. So one of the cheesy lines that I have in my mind that I like is that the thing that I like the best about teaching is the learning that I get out of it. Yeah, because it's really great to be able to hear everybody and get these different ideas.
I agree with you. I get what you're saying. The funny version of it to me is it's really encompassed in a classic movie called The Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
The coach really learns from the kids as much as the kids learn from the coach. He got himself straightened out. The energy that comes back from talking to somebody and somebody learning something and they're transforming and you're playing a role in it. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And in the jazz world, somebody's learning to play tenor saxophone. And at a certain point, they pick their favorite tenor saxophone player and they transcribe. And then they pick another one, transcribe, and then another one. And then by the end of 3 or 4 of those iterations, you become who you are. Right. And I feel like the way we do it with direct human contact, more so, obviously that happens in the jazz world too. If you ship a kid off into the world, they've been studying with you at 18 to 21, and then they come back 6 years later, they're going to be dramatically different. In a less stupid analogy, it's much more like the Odyssey, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you go out and then you come back and you're a changed person. And at that point, you get to see some of your own ideas completely twisted around in a way that you would have never done yourself, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the most beautiful part of it. That's the most interesting part. It's great.
We dodged the initial question about the interruption that LeBlanc made in the clarinet world, because since then you've played about 6 different clarinets, right? And,
Yeah.
and it was interesting to me because I think you sound great you're still playing the obols, right?
Yes.
That was not my favorite choice you made
Uh-huh.
because it disrupted what I wanted you to sound like. And I could think of you play a couple times a year usually, right? Amelia and I had a great time, and you getting us tickets on Christmas Eve was amazing, beautiful. You had a wonderful time. But for me, it was also beautiful to hear you play in a way that this wasn't my choice, right? I'm not hearing you play with that sound that I heard you play with in your living room in 1996.
Yes.
But I don't know whether it was you or whether it was me, but I was like, you know what? I'm on board. I'm on board. I'm with this. I can get with this now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, that's funny. No, but that's the thing. I mean, like the journey is part of it. It's to get on board with the LeBlanc thing. Okay, just to so we don't lose. The thing that I love about that clarinet was that it had a roundness, and it was one of the first ones that I noticed that it had a particular tuning ratio that was different than the status quo at the time. But mostly the color, which I really like, it encouraged clarity, but a softer edge, you see, to the sound. And that I always liked. The thing is that uh, what I would say is that as a musician, uh, even though there's a certain time where you start questioning and trying different things and making sure that I just never even that I never want to be like the hamster that looks very busy in the wheel and going nowhere, right? And and sometimes you put the hamster in the little ball and they'll go here and there, whatever. And just as people, we try different things, and some things take us to a completely different place that might be great. Sometimes we have to take a few steps back and then come around to the other place. But I find that uh, all those changes are part of the journey because it just makes you question things in a particular way. It's like, I mean, we talk about it like in food. Let's say we have our absolute favorite meal and you have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. I don't think, even if it's your absolute favorite thing, I don't think that we would love it so much. Is that's all we had to eat for a long time. You see what I mean? That there would be a place where we would, be seeking a different taste, and then it would speak something different. And you know, our needs change because the way we are when we're 20 and 25 or whatever is different than when we're 50, and the playing environments change, etc.
We're 50 now, man.
Dude, yeah, yeah, something out there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Not sure. Yeah, yeah. No, but the thing is that I just find it to be like that, and one of the things that Anton Wernberg, my teacher from Indiana, had he had written this beautiful book. It's called Unfinished Sentences, and it was on thoughts on music and things like that were very very cool. And one of the things that I remember that is in what, because they're not, some are like, just a couple of thoughts, 2 or 3 sentences, and then you for you to think about things. And this particular one was interesting where he says like what every great woodwind instrumentalist may have started in a particular school of playing. No great one ever belonged to one. What I get from that is that many artists were always searching, searching. And the thing is that while we talk about the certain things about tradition and clarinet, etc., if we go back to in real time, many of those people that we call our staple tradition are not necessarily that at that time when that started developed new. It's new. For example, if we think about Carlisle, he started very young in the Berlin Philharmonic, and he like had studied and came from East Berlin, and he moved. And then when you hear his first recordings of the first Brahms sonatas, the iconic first recording of his motor concerto with the Weber that had a little beat up silver clarinet, in the cover, it was like for Deutsche Grammophon. It's a much different sound than his last recording that he did. And the thing is that it's absolutely beautiful, the first one, and the last one is absolutely gorgeous. And they're completely the opposite. The first one had more of what was then like what I would call the older German sound, which had a brightness to it and a clarity, but it was very sweet, but bright. And then as he developed, he had very many years in the perfect Karajan years with the orchestra, lots of recordings, and he transformed his sound. He has said many times that his father was a bass clarinet player, so he was always hearing the bass clarinet in his home. So for him, the clarinet, he wanted the clarinet to be an extension of just that bass clarinet sound that he had been hearing at home. And when you hear his live recording of the Mozart with St. Martin's in the Fields, it's really beautiful. It's way darker. It's a completely different color and a different inflection altogether. Absolutely beautiful, but it's different than that. And they're both him. And when we talk about traditional German sound now, it's his sound, which is the last sound, not the earlier one. But for him, he tells the story that when he won in the Munich competition, he won second prize, but they were not even awarding first prize. So he got a second prize. And I think it was De Lecluse, who was one of the jury members. For those of the younger generation that don't know how Ulysses De Lecluse played, even though he has studied in the Paris Conservatory uh, with some teachers of Cahuza, he was colleague with Cahuza, played together at the opera, etc. His sound was much lighter, played with vibrato and all this kinds of stuff in the old French, the old French school. Leicester told me the story. That's like, well, that he came and thought, well, you play the clarinet very well, but you do have a strange style, you know. And then that's what the Leclerc said to Leicester. And Leicester said, oh, thank you, Maestro. Fortunately, the only thing I really like about my playing is my sounds. So that was really interesting. So
Well, and then I heard like 10 seconds later, Cal Opperman came and said, you don't know jack shit about the clarinet, right?
yeah, exactly. But that is the thing. I mean, it's like when we are thinking about this thing, it's like it is true in real time. Things are moving. We don't really realize it because in general we are basically the way we do it is we're driving forward, but always looking at the back, at the rear view mirror. You know, so yeah, because when we talk, even if we are to go back to okay, let's go back to Bonat. I admire Bonat. I've always admired Bonat, but I admire more now more than ever. It's just I think that he was really stupendous in every way. The thing is that uh, we think of that, the traditional Frenchman, but it's traditional, but it isn't because it doesn't sound like Lefebvre with whom he studied. And there's Victoria Soames did that very lovely recording of historical clarinet, and then you can hear some of the players, and so you can get to hear. Yeah, he sounds fantastic, but he does not sound like his teacher at all. And when he came to Philadelphia, the orchestra, he had to get a different kind of sound. So he started working with some French guys that had moved down the street in Pine Street. He knew something with a little bit more power. And these French guys, his brother was the famous one, Henri Chedeville or whatever. So they were just there. Like, hey, can you make me a couple mouthpieces? I need something with a little bit extra something for playing at the academy. So that was different, and then the same thing with Marcellus, who we also love very much. He started with Bonat, and he doesn't sound at all like Bonat, at all. And if for the people who have not heard Ron Aldrich's podcast talking about his experience with Marcellus was playing with the National Symphony with the Melior Bonat Melior mouthpiece. That was supposed to be one of the was that Bonat design, and they were a little inconsistent, but his was like fantastic, so he loved it. And then the week before or the month before he went to Cleveland, he was playing some gig and the clarinet fell on the floor and snapped the mouthpiece. So he couldn't do anything about it. So he had to get something new to get going. And then, so happened that Gigliotti knows these guys from Chicago, so he sent him some of his best mouthpieces by Casper. And then that's when he started using that by coincidence, you see? So, and then he was a little bit, wanted to get something different in his sound. So then there was this very new, small, other company in France that was making reeds, Moray or whatever. And then there's this new model clarinet that Buffet started making in 53 by Robert Carres. So when we hear the Mozart concerto that he recorded, like in 1960, he's playing, a Buffet clarinet that is 7 years old, the model. So it's way younger than the Tosca is right now. So it's a younger instrument, no mouthpiece, no reeds, so it's like very much in the upper front, in the front of what's working, the newest stuff, because he's searching for things. And even though he respects and plays, I studied with Brian, the sound is not the same, or the approach is not the same, even though the fundamentals are the same, but there's room for a lot of difference. And it is one of the things that many times we forget that part of the equation. And then we have to always be careful of using the tradition and all the fundamentals to try to find our own contribution.
Well, I'm going to link the video that you're talking about where Ron's talking about Marcellus and the clarinet, because that is, I made a lot of videos about the clarinet, and I stayed up till 2 a.m. watching that video. I woke up the next morning, jumped out of bed, and I couldn't wait to call Ron Odrich on the phone and say, man, that was the most amazing video in the world. I called him at like 2 p.m. It's like, Ron, that video was amazing. And he revealed to me what he was doing at 92 years old. He was practicing the clarinet. It was unbelievable. But to think that, like, he has that clarinet, that's amazing.
Yeah.
He has the reeds. That video is beautiful. The sentiments are beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful.
Yeah.
People should see it. I mean, it is my favorite video about the clarinet. That's all.
It's great.
For sure. But it is interesting, right? Like, it makes me think. I use pop culture analogies a lot of the time. I didn't know that the hit Billy Ocean song that was on the radio at the same time as Michael Jackson's Thriller were not going to be seen historically the same. Get Out of My Car didn't have the cultural significance that Thriller did. But at the time, as a kid consuming it in real time, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I like the Billy Ocean song, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. That's a little, Well, we all have our club where the Cyndi Lauper was versus Madonna. Oh my God.
It is interesting to think about what's going to be the thing from a certain period of time that hangs on. And speaking of that, again, I'll cut it out if you don't want to talk about it, or if it's not appropriate for you to talk about from a business standpoint. What reeds are you playing on now?
Oh, I'm playing some reeds that I designed that are made in Austria, and so I'm very lucky to have a company over there that's developing them. I've been using that for the last 4 years. I mean, the usual stuff is always good to have around the Vandorens, because it's always good as a base. But these other things that I have worked on, that I have very happy to use, is a little bit different, just to get a little bit different parameters of the things that I want to have.
I just want to add in this sort of little needling of you. When I went to Philadelphia with my kiddo, and you were gone, I had lunch with our friend Rie. She told me about this mouthpiece that has your name on it, and now you're telling me that there's reeds that have your name on them. It's as if you're making me feel like I don't exist, because I've got this YouTube channel that loves to talk about clarinet stuff, and I don't have any of these things.
Oh, I even have a ligature. I have a ligature too.
And you're just like, do it to the knife, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm a terrible business person. I make it for the love of it, and I'm just sort of shy. Yeah.
But it's totally, it would help me more than it would help you. But even more, that's even a better reason. The put it in my hands.
Don't worry, I'll look you up. Yeah. So these reeds are called Liberté, because designed here in Philly, Statue of Liberty and the whole thing. It's nice to have a little a little throwback, throwback, of just for Philadelphia and the Frenchiness of the old town. So it's nice. Yeah.
So you've been playing those for 4 years, and those are actual cane reeds.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So these are reeds
French
that
cane reeds and then just manufactured.
at one point, I remember you very vividly calling cane reeds antique reeds.
They are antique reeds. And, the thing is that, it's just like when people were talking about electric cars. Now it's getting more and more. And here we only had Tesla, but you see the older companies trying to throw a little bit of shade to Tesla. But I mean, China has so many other. There's like 10 other car manufacturers that don't even SUVs and big cars and luxury. It's all electric over there. So so eventually, I'm sure that it works. That and some of them they do work and they do work for and they serve a purpose. And there are sometimes that I've used them many times and I still use them to make sure for my students to correct and to play. So whatever works for sure.
Well, I mean, I was at a show the other day, and I got a little fired up because I think that what I want, and we've lost the thread on this. I want a synthetic reed that I can go back and forth with the cane reed, so that I'm not always playing. I don't want to play a synthetic reed all the time.
Right.
I would like to go back and forth.
Yeah.
But I haven't found one that offers that.
Yeah.
In fact, they're idiosyncratic enough, each one of them, that it doesn't feel like any particular cane reed that I can put on.
Right. And I think that they are getting closer and closer. And the thing is that what we have to realize is that there's the other element is that most of our mouthpieces, well, I would say all our mouthpieces are basically geared toward cane reeds, right? So there are very few mouthpieces that have been designed specifically for synthetics, right? So it's always like, yeah, it's pretty close. It's as close you're gonna get it, But
the part to me, and I know I'm pushing back a little bit, and I'm doing it for fun. Well, what does that mean? Specifically designed for a synthetic reed. I mean, like, what does that even mean? That sounds like a sales pitch.
No. The thing is that so cane. When we say, I mean, in the most technical sense, the material for cane we are using at Rondodontas is a plant, and it is wild and it's very vibrant. And we are grabbing this, drying it out over years, and then putting a shape and wetting it and expecting this piece of cane from the bar region to satisfy our musical desires. So it's one thing, but that's how we do it. And I have found that the reality is that cane and the synthetics for now, they come from a different side. Like cane is overly vibrant and we use it a little bit harder trying to temper it so we can get the quality and the warmth and the control that we want. Whereas many of the synthetics are materials that are basically, they're dead materials, and then that they are manufactured, and then they are designed to try to emulate that vibrancy of a plant, right? So in that sense, it's not even they are completely different. And one of them is coming from a place that is like lifeless, and then trying to create this particular kind of vibrancy. And the other one was alive, and there's dead, and there's a little bit of life again, but it's coming from a place where that kind of flexibility is more normal for it. You see, so that's why, and that's why I say it. So then it's like, look, we have the all the manufacturers right now that make mouthpieces. I would say that I'm not gonna say all of them, but I'll say, let's say, for argument's sake, at least 90% of them have their testers and their makers playing mostly on cane reeds, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's pretty good. But cane has a different shelf life
Sure.
than the other material, the synthetics, etc. So that's why, and then you have to think that because it has a different kind of vibrancy, just that the place of fulcrum might be different in order to get the kind of color and the sound. So all things considered, it's still pretty good for what it does. The only trick is that I think that it's more challenging the smaller the instrument. The smaller the instrument. I mean, like because if you're talking about saxophone or uh, bass clarinet or the bigger instrument, the cane, because it's so much bigger, is that much more unpredictable, and then the synthetic sometimes ends up being a little bit more stable and more productive. I have found that it is harder to define, even in classical saxophone, somebody who's playing synthetic versus cane, it's a little bit trickier. Maybe the instrument is much different, and they have more, more things. They do more vibrato and things like that. So it's a little bit harder to define. In a clarinet, the smaller it is, then that piece of cane or that piece of synthetic material has to vibrate in a very specific way, very quick, in order to get a particular color. So that's why I'm like, I want them to be like absolutely the best, but in the meantime, that's part of the process. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's like we had hybrid cars. That Prius was good. There's all kinds of stuff, and as things progress, you turn the best.
Are you suggesting that we should go back to a plastic cover reed? Remember those?
The what?
The plastic cover.
Oh yeah, man, those were pretty good.
That's a nice hybrid reed.
I used those for a long time, man. Plastic cover, I love them. They look cool. I thought they look very cool.
Well, that's actually one of the things that I think about sometimes is I heard you tell the stories on a video somewhere, and I may have heard you tell it in real life, about looking at the clarinet and how beautiful it was, and it was the perfect mix of wood and metal, and then there was an aesthetic quality of the clarinet that you really, really loved.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds a little crazy, but that's one of the reasons why I chose it, because the saxophone, all shiny, too braggadocious, too much for me. I don't like, the oboe is similar to clarinet, but too many keys, looks a little too complicated. I made too many keys. I don't like that. And the bassoon, man, that's just weird, man. I'm sorry, man. I played with some of the best bassoon players. It's still a little weird, man. To my ears. Like, it's pretty good, but fine. But so the aesthetic of the very nice amount of keys and the open holes. I like that.
So it makes sense that you were attracted to that had the right look.
Honestly, you get an assessment you're gonna get from an 11-year-old.
Well, listen, I did a video comparing all the different finishes on a Vandoren ligature, the same ligature.
Yes.
And and I had like graphs and like which overtones are coming out. And it basically came down to I like the one that's in black because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Because it pretty much the finishes didn't make that much of a difference. But when I had the black one on, it made me feel like I was Michael Knight in Kit, a Knight Rider. And I like how that felt. It feels good.
No, well, yeah, but that is true. A lot of times we saw. I mean, there are some that they do have a particular kind of sound that will promote a certain partial of the sound. But when we're talking about playlists and stuff like that, it is much more of a personal feel.
Yeah, it impacts the feel for sure. The sound a lot less.
Right.
I think that I'm not trying to dismiss that there's a difference. It's just I can tell you this: it's hard to quantify in a YouTube video.
Yes, but also, but that everything goes in layers. If you feel better about it and you like it, then you feel freer to play music. You feel more at ease. That's part of the equation why we do those kinds of things. And so it's like it might be voodoo magic, man. But
conversely, a long time ago, back when I played more saxophone, I had a beautiful silver-plated tenor saxophone. But man, if you've got a silver-plated tenor saxophone, people notice.
Yeah.
And I liked playing the saxophone, but I didn't want to be noticed playing the saxophone. I just finally sold the instrument because I was like, I can't do this. I can't have this beautiful, shiny silver saxophone in my hand. I don't want anybody walking up to me and saying, "What's that?" But if it was a clarinet that had a fancy thing that people were interested in, I'd be more interested in that because I feel like that's much more my thing. Yeah.
Well, you see, that's the thing. Like, whatever speaks to us, that's whatever makes it open that case. And that's it.
Well, so speaking of opening the case, what type of wood are you currently playing on your clarinet?
So I have traditional granadilla and mopani. They have been like the new range or whatever.
So, I mean, yeah, I asked that question forgetting that you probably have 15 sets of clarinets within arm's reach of you right now.
Well, not that many. It's not that many. No, but it's interesting is that it's just like everything goes. Uh, I find that granadilla is the base, right? And that is where you get the thing. And actually, but depending on the quality of the granadilla, it affects the sound a lot. Yeah, for sure. The density, etc. But I like the other ones. I know that now people are making boxwood clarinets. I used to play on the ones with cocobolo, and sometimes a mix. Cocobolo with granadilla or what have you. And uh, at the end, is also what makes you feel good. I mean, like there are certain elements that do. I would say that they don't necessarily make the 100% the difference, but that it encourages a particular kind of play,
Yeah.
right? So the aesthetic of the sound does influence the play in a way.
I remember back when we were young, they were doing things for you at LeBlanc. They built that F sharp that vented like a sliver
Yeah.
key. And then on a separate clarinet, they put the B flat underneath the register.
Yeah, the stuff.
And but they were two different clarinets. But you, without hesitation, just put the two parts that you like together.
Yeah.
And you remember what I'm sure you do. You remember what she used to call it? Fully loaded.
That's well, yeah, but it's good. I mean, that actually works really well. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, it's like now I'm very happy to see that more the makers are more open to adding some stuff. I mean, like way back in the '90s, just or the early 2000s, to just use a cocobolo barrel was like whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, it was a little weird, and now we have all these types of different woods. And, even Buffet is doing the correction key and the custom thing. And so there's more, to a certain extent, and more open-mindedness to try different things. So it's nice. And sometimes it's good to go back, all reliable, 17 key, where I'll be like just playing to see.
Well, I mean, the clarinet I have next to me doesn't have the 18th key on it.
Right. But that's what I'm saying.
Well, and then this is the one that sits here, and I love it. It's a great clarinet. It's a green line, so
Yeah.
I can let it sit there, and it's cool. But consequently, I've never learned to use the extra key. I'm terrible with the extra key.
Yeah. But don't worry, that's a matter of hours to quote over. All you need to do is returning scale on A flat major and E major, and that'll take care of itself. But that's all.
A lot of times, I'll get into a fight with people. Hopefully, I feel like it's fun. I hope they do too. Where like I have certain ways. If I see an E, like a low E, it's right-handed. Only if I have to finger it left-handed will I finger it left-handed.
Yeah.
For me, that really helps me organize my brain when I'm playing. I'm not processing extra things. Some people have gotten aggressively uncomfortable with me when I promote that idea.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, what I like about that idea is that it's good to have a default setting. Okay, that's the thing. I mean, because since we have options, it's not like the German clarinet that you have just a one low E and then that's it. I think that it is important to find a way to have yourself organized. That is actually not a bad thing. I think that everybody has to find a way to deal with the idiosyncrasies of the clarinet, how they work the best. I found in many ways, and it's just a little interesting that Joseph Rabbi, my colleague who is principal in the Met with me, lovely, lovely player and lovely guy. He marked the part all the time. So I saw a lot of the parts, and it was interesting. And I thought it was weird, and then it became interesting. And it was cool to me that he would mark where he will use the left for the B and then the right, and it was almost to a T. I would say it was like over 90% of the time. For me, it was the opposite. But the thing, I just liked it because I got used to start. I accepted it's probably the opposite. So I look at him, and then I used to know, and I felt comfortable. And he was one of these players that, he played at the Met, he played Israel Philharmonic, American Symphony, one of these guys that, just had to play all the time and be very solid. It's just interesting that we just have like a different, of course, also I'm left-handed. He was right-handed. Maybe that had something to do with it.
I have one last topic I want to get on here, which you met one of my really good friends last year. I don't know if you remember me and my friend Evan Christopher. They played some sort of piece, and you and he, I talk to him all the time. Our kids hang out. Super close friend. You and he couldn't be more different in what you sound like on the clarinet, but you guys both have this thing that you hear it, you can play it. And it's exactly the same. The process behind it's the same. He's making his up. You are oftentimes playing something that's already been written down. What's interesting to me is the ability to have a very, very clear idea of what you want to play and being able to hear it before you play it, but then also be able to have the immediate assessment of whether you executed on what it is that you plan to do, all happening within split seconds of time. And he does the same. It's the same thing. Obviously, the music's entirely different. The clarinet, he's playing on an Albert system. Everything is different. But I'm curious to know, is that something that was built into your playing through your history of learning musicianship the way that you did? Or is that something that you have put effort into?
I think that 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Okay. In the sense that, like when I was younger, I think I used to have like perfect pitch. Now I don't, but I only have like perfect pitch for, I won't call it perfect pitch. I have note recognition on the clarinet. Like basically like I could hear something play in the piano. It's like, yeah, that's pretty good. If I hear it play on the clarinet, oh, I know exactly which notes, which finger they're using. It's like a little weird like that. Right.
Right.
So that is part of it. I think that I just when I was little, my dad actually, this is very funny because I used to play in this band in Puerto Rico. As a young kid, that was the band of San Juan, but it was like semi-professionals at the time or whatever. It was like between professionals and amateurs and people who had day jobs and they go together to play. Excuse me, I'm just telling you. And we had a very eclectic group of people there. Let me tell you, guys were teachers in the music school, but that like percussion, not really clarinet, but we're playing clarinet in there. Where there was this guy who was fantastic technical player. He kept his clarinet in the trunk of the car all day long in Puerto Rico. Okay,
Assembled or in the case?
so it's like 90 degrees. It's like insane. And then just bring it up. Okay, let's go. It's hilarious. So, okay, so it was eclectic, let's just say. And my dad loved that they were really a bunch of crazy people, but when we played music, it just worked. You played dances and Spanish dances and all that. But then my dad got into this thing about, hey, Ricky, how does that guy play? He's at home. He'll be like, hey, tell me how, just to get me to imitate, how some of this guys play. And, so it was sort of like, it was our little joke, a little bit of imitating. But what that did when you're 12 or 13 is that it actually opens your ears to be more objective of what you're hearing. And, you don't have the technique. Oh, yeah, this person is using that tone position, and therefore the Marcellus embouchure, and therefore you should. Like you don't really know. You're just hearing, and then you try to imitate, just like how we learn language or whatever. So that was, I think, one of the things that helped me develop a little bit of the hearing for playing the clarinet.
Well, it's interesting to me when I hear you play. I hear complete confidence in the idea of what you want to play, but then the execution of it. I remember Alex and I used to get those tape recorders that would take you down to half speed, right? And we'd record our lessons so we could listen back to them. But then we would listen to you play at half speed on really complicated things. Your fingers were so clean at half speed. You could really.
Oh, that's wild.
It was bananas, man. Like, and then we hear ourselves play at half speed. It was a disaster, man. Like all sorts of like little extra notes in there. And it's like
Right. Hey, maybe I need one of those machines now. It's just in case. Oh my God, that's funny. No,
awesome.
I would say that I have it was a great time to be able to share music with you and practice and work with you and Alex. And I'm so happy that we've kept in touch and that our friendship has grown over the years. It's a very big gift that I feel that I've received. So I thank you for
Oh,
it.
well, that's you're
Yeah.
too kind. The gift is what I got out of the whole thing. But it's amazing because I mean, Alex and I are still friends. For anyone who doesn't know, we're talking about Alex Lang, who's
Yes.
the clarinet in the Phoenix Symphony, and I mean, you know what he's doing now, right?
Yes, he's doing really great. Fantastic.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's doing some big things with gateways. He's doing amazing things.
Yeah.
He's actually in a position to make decisions, make choices, and make recommendations, and
Yeah.
it's a very exciting thing that he's doing, and it's something that means a lot to him. And for me, the thing that I feel incredible about is like I have a life full of people who are really great at stuff. That's an understatement. I think to myself, like, what's wrong with you, man?
What are you You are crazy, man.
You get it together, man.
You just got it going on, man. You got it going on.
All right, man. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. I love you.
I love you too.
So that's it. My lengthy conversation with Ricardo Morales in 2 episodes. If you haven't heard the first one, please go back and check it out. Ricardo shared some really wonderful stories about how he came to be who he is and his family and the importance of music and how he got to be the clarinet player that we all know and love. So thank you, Ricardo. This was a wonderful confirmation of our friendship, and it means the world to me that you were here on the first 2 episodes of the Clarinet Ninja podcast.